Hey guys, King of Charmander here. Today I'll be your judge, your jury, and your analyst. And thank you for being really patient. It's been a really busy week because for some reason school is back. And that means I have a lot of clients as a therapist. And that means I have to do a whole lot of paperwork because, you know, there's something called insurance. Sadly, there is no insurance in Pokemon Go PvP. If you are dead, you are dead. Your ELO will be taken down and you cannot pay a premium. Well, maybe sometime soon Niantic will create some subscription or something like that. That doesn't mean I want it to happen where you can pay so your ELO or your, you know, like $9.99 a month will get you one shiny or one raid pass or something like that, some little bundle or something like that, you know, so that Niantic can make more money if they don't need it right now. And PvP is still broken, so they refuse to invest in it. And for some reason, there's an exploit running around that lets you run the switch clock and you come back to your Pokemon half dead. But if you're still interested in playing Pokemon Go PvP, these are my top 5 teams for Ultra League Remix. As I always say, please consider contributing to PvPoke.com. So, Ultra League Remix is a little bit... Actually, it's a lot worse this time around because instead of 20 Pokemon being banned, there are only 10 Pokemon that are banned. Which they debanned a lot of the budget picks because I think they kind of... Whoever is in charge of this list, you are terrible at your job and you should probably give it to someone else that knows what they're doing. They probably realized that having 20 Pokemon that they banned, or the ones they banned, don't really matter that much, and they really don't. It does allow for more budget picks though, so I will be putting a top budget pick team for Ultra League Remix out there once I get to it. But that means that, again, there's only 10 Pokemon that are actually banned. Things like Obstagoon, etc. are banned. But that allows more budget picks, but at the same time, that means a lot of other like meta picks like Umbreon, etc. can come back and be used. So without further ado, here are my top 5 teams. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of looks for the Ultra League Remix. So for the first team, I had to put the American Muscle, the one of 2 burbs, which Bravery is the second bird. Pidgeot XL. Yes, Pidgeot goes at nearly 2,500 and is one of the strongest leads for the Ultra League Remix. Feather Dance is really freaking good, and because that Pidgeot is a top 5 lead in Ultra League Remix. This features Pidgeot lead, G-Fist Safe Switch, and Deoxys defense as a Safe Switch as well. So you have a double Safe Switch with Pidgeot and debuff ability. If you win the lead or if you lose the lead, you can Safe Switch into G-Fisk if you want to debuff, etc. There's a lot of things you can do with this team. Pidgeot, it's finally unbanned, and with the G-Fist, literally gives you amazing coverage and bulk off the bat. Good safety, great safety and consistency. This team does really well against a lot of top meta, and here's why Pidgeot does so well. Look at all of these X's. As long as Pidgeot doesn't see a Steel type, it does very well against a lot of meta picks. Even if you're up against something like an A9, you can debuff it, then switch out, or you get to Safe Switch into Deoxys defense or G-Fist, whichever one you feel like. You have the number 1 most powerful Safe Switch and one of top 10, so incredibly powerful and really strong. This team's really generic. You can choose, if you win the lead with Pidgeot, debuff and then switch out. By doing so, you are able to farm a bunch of energy with G-Fist and Deoxys defense and just absolutely murder your opponent. This team's very powerful. The reason why Pidgeot does so well is because it has that normal typing. Because of the normal typing, you are able to resist ghost types, which makes it very, very powerful. And statistically, against a lot of the overall meta in the 2 shield, it does very, very well, with an incredibly low threat score of 593. So if you want to use American Burb, and you have a Deoxys Defense XL, and a G-Fisk XL, and a Pidgeot XL, then this team is for you. Alright, next up we got G-Fisk XL in the lead, Mandibuzz as your Safe Switch, XL of course, and then Mewtwo armored in the back. I wanted to give you a whole bunch of different looks because Ultra League Remix allows for a lot of combinations. If you don't have one mon or the other mon, hopefully you have something else. These mons are really expensive, but don't worry, I will be making a budget team list. So with this team, I remember I tell you I give you a whole bunch of looks. I sim with each of these teams at least 20 to 30, or I run 2 sets, 15 battles at least between each of them, all of them, just to see if they do really well. And that's why it takes a while. So this team does really well because Mandibuzz Safe Switch is very, very good. However, Registeel and G-Fisk are around, but you can break as much shield as possible, farm down with G-Fisk, and then Armor Mewtwo can dynamic punch its way to victory. This team is very powerful. Amazing coverage, bulk, as well as safety and great consistency. This team is really freaking strong. I mean, all of them have bulk. All of them do a lot of pressure damage, and it's very, very safe with Mandibuzz and Mewtwo in the back row. As you see here, you can pressure a bunch of shields. You can choose to sack G-Fisk in the lead. You can break a bunch of shields, then send in Mandibuzz or Mewtwo and just realign. Or you could just say switch in Mandibuzz, either or, and it works very, very well. As you see here, this team is so strong that a lot of things that you probably won't see, Regice, Lucario, you'll see a lot of G-Fisk, but just try to play out the mirror. If you don't win the mirror, or even if you don't, like, shield the first Earthquake, Armored Mewtwo with Dynamic Punch can take out G-Fisk. It's very bulky, so Armored Mewtwo can chip away and take out the G-Fisk in front of you, but you'll be behind, so hopefully Mandibuzz can close out. This team is very, very powerful. Low threat score of 622. Not as much as the other one, but overall very, very good against a lot of different combinations. You lose the lead with G-Fisk, safe switch into Mandibuzz. Hopefully Mewtwo can break shield, and you can close out with G-Fisk, because G-Fisk is a very powerful safe switch as well as a closer. Alright, so Shadow Champ was actually a top lead in the previous Ultra League remix, and this time around it's still really good. With Cross Chop and Rock Slide, you can Rock Slide. You're not going to see a lot of Articunos, but with Rock Slide, you could straight Rock Slide through Articuno if you happen to see one, because Articuno got unbanned and now it's back. It could be useful, but not as useful or as powerful as a lot of XLs. As you see here, Shadow Champ is able to break a ton of shields, that's why it's a top leave, and just puts a lot of pressure. Nidoqueen's your safe switch, and Umbreon closes out. You can put Mandibuzz instead of Umbreon, but it's just really up to you. Umbreon can hopefully catch those ghost types in the back, or you just have done enough damage to where it's super thick, so you could foul play your way to victory. As you see here, amazing coverage, good bulk, safety, and consistency. When I was playing this team, it was a little awkward just because of Nidoqueen save switches, just because with Registeel out right now, like, I've had Registeel thrown into me. I mean, I've closed out against Registeels, but just be careful because it does take 2 Earth Powers to almost kill Registeel, and Flash Cannon still does a decent amount of damage, so just be careful when it comes to Nidoqueen. As you see here, remember I mentioned Registeel? That's why, because in the one shield, Registeel is very powerful against Nidoqueen and Umbreon still, especially as an XL, so just be a little mindful of that. Outside of that, the only 2 things that you really have to watch out for with this team are actually more than 2 things, but Poison, basically whatever loses to Machamp. Poison types and Psychic types like Deoxys defense are your worst nightmare. I don't foresee a lot of Skarmory XLs to be around. Skarmory XLs dropped off a lot compared to a lot of other combinations. With that being said, as you see here, it's still really good against a lot of different combinations. Hopefully, Shadow Champ, if you should already have one built, but Shadow Champ hopefully is able, if you're used to it and you like using it, it's still not bad in this cup, so I wouldn't be too discouraged if you start losing leads a lot with Machamp. That's just the way GBL is because it's open. Other than that, I still had a great time using Shadow Champ, so hopefully it does really well for you. Alright, next up we got Ferrothorn XL, G-Fisk as your safe switch, and Lugia in the back. So, this is actually my buddy's team. He made Legend multiple times. He's actually pretty good. He's like my sparring partner, and he does really well with... Ferrothorn core breaks the A9 Jellicent core, so it's a very good anti-Metamon. At the same time, you have the strongest safe switch with G-Fisk and Lugia to close out. Obviously, this team is weak to fighters, so what happens is if you see a Machamp, you safe switch into G-Defense, breaks as many shields as you can, and hopefully you can realign Lugia with the Machamp, or what you can do is that if your opponent decides to stay in, you can farm down with Machamp and then close out the match with Lugia, the Bajillion Energy, and Ferrothorn in the back. But this team is actually very powerful, super bulky. I hated facing it just because this team is insanely thick, so they got really big booties, and their legs are very large, which means they're going to... they can take a lot of damage, basically. Great coverage, safety, as well as consistency. As you see, this team is very good at core breaking the Jelly A9 core. Hopefully you get them in the lead. If not, you can use the pressure of G-Fisk and Lugia with Dragon Tail. The Dragon Tail buff did make Lugia very powerful, and Lugia is allowed for the Ultra League remix. As you see here, this team's really good against a lot of meta picks, outside of seeing the fighter in the lead, so just be very careful. This also uses Ferrothorn with Thunder. If you land a Thunder through shields, if you land a Thunder through shields, it does very, very well. So, especially if you see a flyer, you can use Flash Cannon or Mirror Shot for more bait potential, especially just taking out those A9s. But the thing is, with Thunder, it does give you flyer coverage, just because you might see some more Pidgeots. So, you get a Thunder through shields, you could possibly do heavy damage, so just keep that in mind. As you see here, if you lose the lead with Ferrothorn, you just stay switch into G-Fist and try to close out with Lugia. Ghost types can give you an issue. Dripplin with Icy Wind is good against this team. Ferrothorn, just because, you know, Flyers resist grass types. Snorlax with Superpower can give Ferrothorn a little bit of hard time, especially just shield the first Superpower, and then your opponent's going to have to switch out their Snorlax. But it's still very, very good. Ferrothorn's able to blast out against, it's able to last against, like I said, hopefully you catch the A9 Jellicent core, or you catch a water lead, because Ferrothorn is very good against water leads, as well as ground types, etc. So, if you get that G-Fist XL, Ferrothorn's also very powerful against that as well, because G-Fist must straight Earthquake you to do neutral damage. Other than that, this team is pretty good on the threat score side, and along with that, like I said, if you lose, it's double weak to fighters, but say switch into G-Fist, break shields, farm down Lugia, and hopefully Lugia with the Bajillion energy can close out. Even though this team is double weak to fighters, I tested it a bit, and it does really well, and my buddy's, he's been testing it a lot, he likes this team a lot, so hopefully it does good for you as well, especially if you really like Ferrothorn. And last but not least, I have the remember when I was talking about the Jellicent A9 core? Well, that plus Scrafty in the back, I did predict before that this team would be ridiculously good, and it's still ridiculously good. As you see here, this Jellicent with Ice Beam, I just use that to cover Venusaur because Venusaur is allowed. If you do see the, if you do see Venusaur, or if you do see Ferrothorn, maybe you could Shadow Ball, or you can get to an Ice Beam to finish it off. But Ice Beam gives you that extra flyer slash grass coverage if you need to get there. You can use Bubble Beam for further bait power, but as you see here, either one works. So even if you use Bubble Beam or Ice Beam, it works out, just different matchups, etc. As you see here, the Jellicent A9 core is still very powerful. You lose the lead, stay switch into Jellicent, and then hopefully Scrafty and Jellicent could just punch down your opponent. There's a reason why this was the most powerful team for Ultra Premier Cup, and it was a top team in Ultra League Remix, like I predicted last season. And it's still really good, even with all the even with all of the 10 Pokemon not being banned, just because it's that powerful. Jellicent can have a hard time against Pidgeot, because Pidgeot does resist Jellicent, so that's why I have Ice Beam. You can choose to Ice Beam your way to victory, and just sack Jellicent, and then farm down with A9 and Scrafty, or try to Say Switch and try to close out the matchup. As you see here, this team doesn't, ironically, even though it says Nidoqueen does well against this team, the thing is, Powder Snow in the 2-shield and Jellicent in the 2-shield against Nidoqueen isn't bad. Charmer's 2-shield with Sylveon can give you a hard time as well, especially since you don't have Bubble Beam, but like I said, if you like Bubble Beam, you can use that as well. For some odd reason, the poison types are showing to be very good against Jellicent in the 1-shield, but that's because if Monk has Thunder Punch, and Nidoqueen with Earth Power isn't necessarily bad. But Jellicent is still a very powerful lead. As you see here, you are able to take out a lot of, it's just really strange. Charmers are probably going to be your worst nightmare in the back row, just because Scrafty is really weak against Charmers. However, with the poison type buff being around, you could still see Charmers, but that and Typhlosion is a powerful anti-Metamon, so fire types can still be there to give Charmers a hard time, so just be careful of Charmers in the back. Other than that, this team is still statistically very powerful and was a top 5 / the #1 team in Ultra Premier Cup for good reason. Does a lot, really bulky, has a lot of pressure, and works against a lot of combinations. And that's GG's. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, these top 5 teams in Ultra League Remix are really expensive, but that's just the nature of it. The good thing is, like I mentioned before, a lot of budget picks were unbanned, so I'll try to put budget teams together for this season, and hopefully I could figure out something. This took a little more time to test out, just because with 10 mons, when you unban 10 Metamons, it kind of hurts my head a little bit because I have to figure stuff out. But in testing phases, all 5 of these teams did really well, so hopefully these teams do help you out. If you have any questions, just put in the comments, and if you would like so, please like and subscribe. It does help out the channel. It's totally free, and you can easily subscribe by using that little box to the bottom right. Put your mouse over it, bam, the sub tab will pop up. And like I said, I really do appreciate my subs right now, and it's totally free. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Hopefully you guys are having a great weekend. Hopefully you're doing one of your Go Battle League sets. Good luck on the rest of your Go Battle League sets, as Ultra League is coming on Monday. So hopefully this video does help you out. Again, I will have the budget teams videos out soon for next week. Good luck on your Go Battle League sets, and I will see you guys on the next video.